Hello, everyone. Shannon Guss here, getting you ready for the Week 5 exit interview for Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. If you have not watched the week, please click away from YouTube or the podcast. Right now, if you're driving, don't click away while you're driving. We don't encourage that. Pull over, click away, because I am talking to, spoiler alert, Laura, which was, a huge character loss. The PR gave us evidently quite a bit of time, so I just kept asking questions, and Laura was so insightful, and I really enjoyed this X interview and highly recommend. Hopefully, you will listen to it, given that you are on the podcast right now. Other coverage this week, I had daily recaps for another big week of Australian Survivor with Chappelle, Puya, and Mike in that order. And I'm going to be recording a feedback show with Oma, Zach, and Marianne, my 42 crew, to talk about the season, which will probably be wild. So a lot of content. I also am doing Survivor Global for Survivor 48. Had a really fun recap with Puya this week, talking through a big episode of episode 3. Highly recommend checking that out. And then next week I will have Eden to talk about episode 4. So this is all on YouTube. This is all wherever you get your podcast. WeKnowGlobalSurvivor.com. Follow me at Shannon Gates, where I share all of that. Hope you enjoy this exit interview, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Laura, welcome to the podcast. This was a huge, devastating exit. You were such a major character on the show, personified the coven, which has been such a huge storyline. I'm sorry to see you go, but I'm happy to be talking to you.
I'm so happy to be talking to you, Shannon. It is a dream come true. I've listened to every RHAP podcast that you've ever done on Australian Survivor, ever.
Oh my
So
God.
I've gone back on through the archives. So it's a real dream come true to be chatting to you.
Well, thank you so much. And I have so many questions. I'd love to start with the coven. You're the first coven member I've gotten to speak to, and I would love to understand this dynamic, which I've struggled to understand. Could you explain to me how it formed, what brought you together, and then the evolution? Obviously, before the swap, you guys are kind of turning on each other, but it never really manifests that way. You're not even at the tribal council where Ali goes home, and then it's going to reconnect. So, how did you kind of view this interesting relationship?
So I came into the game knowing that calling myself a witch would be pretty polarizing, and kind of wanting to see where people fell on that scale. And as soon as I landed, Logan said, I just did an aura reading, or I just did a tarot reading before I came out here. And I went, great, you're with me. And then, yeah, Karen was the first one to say, I really like Witchy Poo and I want to do something about it. And I think that the coven came together with 4 very, very strong women, 4 very opinionated women who had the same idea of playing the game, which worked to our benefit at the beginning when everybody else was kind of like figuring out where they wanted to go. We could stick together quite quickly, but the downfall eventually came from all 4 of us not wanting to budge and not wanting to anybody else to get their way. And I think that came from us all having varying connections and very, strong opinions, and 4 very strong women, which was amazing. Yeah, I think that the downfall was all of our other connections in an alliance. I think you do need those people that are going to ebb and flow. And what brought us together was our strong mind, and that eventually is what tore us apart as well.
Yeah, so getting into like when you meet back up at the merge,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously there had been the intention to talk about Zara. I mean, you had wanted to target Zara even before the swap. How
Mm-hmm.
tight was the coven then at that point? And if you hadn't gone home here and like AJ had gone, what were your plans for the short to medium term future with the coven and in general?
Mm-hmm. I only ever wanted to turn on Zara because I felt she was the least malleable on the entire kind of Brains 1.0 tribe. And I wanted to work with malleable players. But I adore that she knew what she wanted and she went for it. Coming into Merge, I kind of wanted to move forward a little bit more with Kate and Morgan,
Yeah.
because they didn't have the same connections that I have. And I knew there was an alliance forming. The Graduates is the best kept secret of this season because absolutely no one knew about it. And as you can see, they never chat together as a 5 ever. So I knew there was an alliance, but I didn't quite know who was in it and where people sat within that alliance. So I had a feeling that Zara and Karen would want to move forward with those guys. And I kind of wanted to move forward with Kate and Morgan and Logan. But as soon as everything went down with Zara, I forgave her. Game recognizes game. Absolutely, power to you. She did the right thing for her game. And I thought that was really respectable at the time. So I thought the coven could reunite for sure. But I wanted to see where they were falling with their other alliance. Yeah, my plan was to reunite the coven at some point, but I didn't know what their opinions were of me coming into merge.
Yeah,
I didn't know
Kate.
if Zara that I'd truly forgiven her.
Yeah, a lot of water under the bridge. So many questions still. Morgan and Kate. I thought it was great the way you pulled them in. They flipped to be with you, which I think
Mm-hmm.
was really powerful on your part. And then they flipped away from you last night, and that was kind of the death knell. Like they are two incredibly important swing votes. How
Mm-hmm.
do you see that? The fact that they choose kind of AJ over the relationship that they'd had with you, and how that kind of formed through a swap where we see you're on the bottom, but eventually they do choose you.
Mm-hmm. I worked very hard during swap to form my relationship with Kate and Morgan, and I really thought that I had solidified us as a three. Coming into merge, that's exactly what they said to me. I think that Kate and AJ's friendship is fascinating, and at the time, I had no idea about their relationship. Um, I didn't realize how quickly they would forget the whole hostages situation. But I think they were ready to play and they were really ready to move forward with someone that they thought could protect them. And I think after the whole Zara situation, I had lost my ability to shield them from what was happening in terms of the brain crazy dynamics. And I think they saw AJ as a way to protect them, which is why they flipped. I do think that they wanted to get out Logan in order to send me back to them.
Okay.
It made sense to me at the time that they were going to go for someone like Logan so that I could be with them again. But didn't work out. Didn't
Yeah.
work out.
Really interesting dynamics. And then let's talk about Zara. Let's talk about Advantage Gate, which you find the advantage. I'd love to just hear about, your relationship with Zara coming into this had tightened through the swap, it seems, even more so. You find the advantage, you tell her. What was the thinking in telling her? What had been your plan to go to the other side? What were your thoughts in that moment where there was this flip on the table with Kate and Morgan, but you can never be too sure. And then your perspective on Zara leaving when you felt that was your advantage that you had found, if you could just explain that day and kind of the fallout from all of it.
Mm-hmm. So Zara and I had gotten very close on Brains 2.0. I am not joking when I say the Brawns did not speak to us for days. It was fascinating. We would sit there in the shelter and they would just be talking all day. And Zara and I would just talk to each other for a very, very long time. So I really thought we had bonded and we had agreed on how we wanted to move forward, which was with Kate and Morgan. You can see Zara and I talking, and Kate and Morgan come to start Girls Gone Wild, and we're like, "Oh my god, are they coming towards us? They're coming towards us. What do we do? Oh my god, what are they going to say?" Like we
Yeah, I
really,
saw that. It was crazy.
they were tight as a brawn and didn't speak to us about strat at all. So Zara and I had really bonded. When I found the information, self-preservation kicked in. It truly just my stomach dropped at the thought of going to the Brawns. Hindsight's a beautiful thing because I should have continued the plan of Jesse and tested Girls Gone Wild. If Jesse goes to the other side, that's fine, send him into the Wolves' Den. And if Kate and Morgan do end up voting for me, that's fine. I'll go to the Brawns. I really should have continued with that plan, but self-preservation was absolutely number one. And you can see as soon as I tell Zara, that's her thought as well. We had the exact same mentality of get me out of this tribe. And logic kind of just went out of the window. I told Zara because I knew if I had left her without telling her what was going to happen, and then she found out that I knew about it, I would be enemy number one. And being enemy number one of such a strong woman like Zara is not something that I want to do, especially in a very social game when I did want to move forward with the coven and didn't want to annoy her in that way. I also didn't want to flip Kate and Morgan back onto voting for me. We had worked so hard
Yeah.
pulling teeth to get a Brawn name out of their mouth, and they finally said it. The last thing I wanted to do was to get them to undo that thought. I didn't want to stop them from making any moves in the future by telling them now to go back on their first one. So I thought, I'll tell Zara, I'll get Zara to vote for me.
Yeah.
And Miles can be my eyes and ears on the ground here. Don't need him for this plan. And I can go to the other side. What I didn't anticipate is, for Zara to have the exact same thought process that I had, which was get me out of this tribe. And she won the battle. I in the moment, you can see I say, well done, props to you. That was a hard thing to go through, but I respected it at the time. Game recognizes game. I absolutely understood why she did what she did. And I see how I led her down that path. So my thoughts moving on from that was, okay, let's turn the whole Brain 2.0 against her, which is exactly what I did, which is why Jessie votes for her at the first vote of merge, because I had turned the entire Brains 2.0 against her by saying that I was really upset and by saying that that was a bad decision for them. I said to, Kate and Morgan, thank you for voting for me. Miles and PD was really close with Zara. I said, I totally understand why you did what you did. Brilliant choice for you. Ben and Jessie, you guys are screwed because Zara's not going to fight for you. And now I'm not going to either. So you guys are going to be next 1 and 2. And I tried to ham up how upset I was at her to turn that tribe against her, which it worked. But I forgave her. Like, I understood why she did what she did. I thought I was closer than that. I wasn't. Now that I know that, I can continue forward with that knowledge that she's able to do things like that.
And I'm sure as well, like the self-preservation where you've been on a tribe where people aren't talking to you and you have friends on the other side just to like have a good day is probably kicking in just from an emotional perspective. Had Miles,
Sure.
was the plan to also tell Miles, because if Miles was on Jesse and then the Laura and Morgan are on, you're Laura. If Morgan and Kate are on Jesse and that's 3 votes Jesse, and even if Zara votes for you, it's a 3-3-1. So were you also going to have to tell Miles to vote for you as well? That was the plan.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I thought on the night it'd be much easier to convince Miles to vote for me, because it would make sense immediately. He could move forward with this hunks alliance, which we knew about. He told us about instantly. And I thought it'd be super easy just to tell him quickly, vote for me now, go with the hunks. And he would trust that I had a plan, because Miles and I kind of think along the same way. I knew that he would trust my instinct in that moment. I didn't think that Zara would trust me immediately if I'd said to her at Tribal Council, vote for me. It would have made no sense for her. So I knew that I wanted to tell her about it to warm her up to the idea. I didn't anticipate her to come in and suggest herself as well. And I wasn't going to tell the whole tribe at all. I really, really wasn't. But Zara, the way that she was speaking to me got me really scared that she was going to announce that I'd found this thing and that I'd been lying to everybody, and I wanted to bring it out on my own terms. But yeah, I thought it'd be pretty easy to tell Miles at Tribal Council to vote for me because I knew he would trust me.
Okay, great. I'm glad I understand the plan now because I've been ruminating. I want to talk about Miles because this was a key relationship. We see that you get really close over the swap. He talks about valuing you. It was something that, when we were putting out plans a couple of nights ago on what Miles should have done with the idol stealer, I put out maybe a split vote potential and people were like, he will not part with Laura. And it felt like you were a really important dynamic to him. Obviously, it's not going to be enough. We see the conversation last night between the two of you. Like, where did you see Miles? And are you surprised that you could be collateral damage for him, considering that you had grown a lot closer?
Yes. Miles and I were extremely close right from the beginning. The very first chat that you ever see me have in the whole show is my well chat with Miles, where we discussed that we're both fans and that we wanted to work together. Every single time his name was brought up on Brains 1.0, I told him exactly what the split was. I told him who was on him and that he wouldn't go home. And I really was telling him all of that information. A big reason why I was eventually going to vote for Rich, if that non-elimination didn't happen, was because I had Miles. I'd worked on my relationship enough with Miles to swap Miles for Rich. I thought that I'd done enough to not be the split at the Tribal Council. I think what had shot me in the foot was the PD vote, was putting out a vote, it gaining legs, and then not having the numbers, so flipping it back. I think that may have scared a couple people, that I had the ability to put something out for it to potentially work and then to pull it back. Within the space of 20 minutes, I could do and undo an entire plan and control the entire tribe. I think that may have scared a couple people. I also think that Miles, who else was he going to split on? He wasn't going to split on Paulie. He just, like, last night saved Paulie, and Paulie was probably a more number to Miles than I was. Although we had a very close relationship, it did shock me how willing he was to put me on the split. That definitely shocked me. But hindsight, who else was he going to split on?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand him wanting to split on Kristen. But I think that with the whole dynamic duo that Logan and I were with this massive target that apparently my name had been brought up so many times as doing quite well, it would make no sense for AJ to put the split on anybody else because it would be undermining everything that he's ever said about me if he was to split on anybody else.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it becomes collateral damage there. It's more like at Logan and you are buddies. You mentioned Rich. I'd love to go all the way back to Rich. This was a relationship that I didn't understand, but seemingly was very important. And you just said as well that you were going to vote for Rich in that non-elim, which changes so many things. Because I kind of thought that Ali would go there. Just can you tell me about that dynamic? And yeah, well, as you said, you were voting Rich out. So that is brand new information for real.
Mm-hmm. Rich was my beautiful puppet. I wanted someone in the game that I could control that wouldn't have ever enough social capital to flip on me, which I thought Rich was. He had immediately, when the coven formed, he could get really close just on a laddie kind of basis with Max and Kaylin. He was quite close with them at the beginning, and I wanted him to continue feeding me that information. As soon as he told me that Indy had spoiled the plan to him, he told me instantly.
Yeah.
I went, this is the perfect puppet. He told me that information so quickly and with no convincing. I need him to stay around to be this leak of whatever else is happening. I didn't realize at the time how much he was annoying Zara and Karen. I really didn't see that relationship. I think they never really spoke, which is what annoyed Zara and Karen. So that was a bit of a shock to me that they were so adamant, and I was kind of shell-shocked. I was like, I didn't know that you wanted him this bad. Are you sure? Is it just because he annoys you? Because we're living on an island where like he's here to annoy you. His whole character is here to piss you off. That's why he's here. And yeah, I was trying to figure out what was getting to them. But we had a really great friendship. We got along really, really well. We have a lot in common. And he really gave me the time of day, which is what I appreciated. And I thought, I'm just going to push as hard as I can to see if they'll budge. And if they won't, then I will move forward with them. And the elimination where Rich goes to the bronze, I was going to vote for Rich for sure. I'd come to peace with it. I'd kind of told Rich
Right.
That's the way that it was going to go. I was going to move forward with the coven, and I had planned to let him go to bring Miles in. But then when the opportunity presented to go to the bronze, I thought that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's why he was so angry, because you were gonna vote him out. Yeah, but even then, I think maybe it's fine. It's interesting. The coven. It's like you chose the coven, and then there was that like brief dalliance at the tribal council where Ali goes home, but you're not even there. It was kind of like you were on a break, Ross and Rachel style, and then like the coven comes back together. It's really really interesting. Last night when I have no idea how long we've been talking for. It feels like 5 minutes, and I'm sure I'm over time, but I'll just go a little bit longer. It really feels like it's been 2 minutes. Logan is told to play the idol. You're told that she's been told to play the idol. Karen is obviously the one giving this information. What are the feelings and thoughts at the time, the fears? Talk me through it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just running numbers in my head, thinking, okay, have I done enough not to be the split right now? Who else could the split be? Maybe it is on Kristen. I think that I was so shell-shocked because the plan to get Logan and I out didn't start 3 days ago. That started at the beginning of Brawn 2.0 as this big dynamic duo. And so people had been lying to me for weeks about how annoyed they were at Miles and AJ. So I really thought that we had done enough and that they had dug their own grave. When I understood in the moment why Karen told Logan to play her idol, but I thought that she potentially did that to get AJ out.
Yeah.
I understood what was happening. So that's why I start turning around going, okay, who are you voting for Logan? I'm trying to do the numbers in real time to figure out, okay, how many people are on Logan? If Logan plays her idol, then how many are on me? How many are on AJ? I thought that I had potentially done enough, but I understood in the moment why Karen told Logan. I mean, they'd spent all of Brawn together. They had a better relationship at that point than Logan and I did. That's why I turned to Zara and I said, okay, are you voting for Logan? I'm asking Zara because I know they have a close relationship. Zara and I have a strange dynamic. So I was trying to figure out what was happening in real time. And it truly was a blindside.
Well,
Truly was.
apparently we have a few more minutes, which is great. Yeah, like the Karen of it all, obviously this like coven member that we haven't spoken about as much. What was your like personal connection with her?
Karen and I got quite close when we were both sent home from the alley vote. We got time to talk about how we viewed the game and what we valued in the game. And I kind of got some more information on the graduates. Not that I knew the name or who was in it, but I understood that there was another alliance happening. Um, and we kind of view the game in very, very similar ways, which is why I understood in the moment why she told Logan to play her idol. It made perfect sense to me, like straight away. Um, Coming back into Merge, I really wanted to move forward with Karen because she was adamant she had Kristen. Logan was adamant she had Kristen. If I'm close with Karen and Logan, I now have Kristen. That's a 4. Great, perfect. Zara's there somewhere as well. I did want to move forward with Karen, but I didn't know how close she was with the graduates. And Zara and Karen were really the people that I was unsure as to where they sat in the whole group dynamic. It's all, I think this season's coming across messy because we all have really close relationships. Apparently we're a lot closer than a lot of other casts. So we all have really tight bonds. So it's coming across messy, but really we're just working with who we like in the moment. And there's so many paths forward for everybody. Every single person could probably work with every single person. And so yeah, I understood Karen's path forward and I didn't think I was in Karen's path. And so it's a messy relationship.
Yeah.
But she was definitely the coven member that I think I was the most similar to.
Well, you talk about, the mess, and I'd love to bring up AJ. AJ, who you are like a victim of his hostage plan. If they're throwing challenges, you're the one, you're on the bottom of the other side. Yeah, and AJ as well, coming into the merge, I think the Brains and the Brain women did a good job. Like you had this possible women's alliance, Morgan and Kate and Kristen. You had the Brains. We see 2 Brawn men go home, or Paulie's going to be on the chopping block. So it felt like those kind of deals were being managed across the board. How were you feeling about AJ, who does seem as like at least someone part of like broad plans at the beginning of the merge, but who has been chaotic at probably at best?
Yeah, I think that AJ and Miles are chaotic in different ways. AJ strikes me as a logical chaotic, as I can understand where he's coming from. The hostages plan, I went, who are you trying to be?
George,
what's this big, right? Yeah. What's this big, like, bombastic thing that you're trying to do? I never worked with AJ. And Brains 1.0, we never worked together. The PD thing never happened. So I liked AJ as a person, but I didn't really understand how he viewed the game because we never spoke about it. I gathered from Logan that he was really not, they have a rocky relationship on Brawn 2.0. So I was very happy to get him out, although I didn't really see it benefiting my game. We just kind of never really, our paths were just so different. And I never understood how he viewed the game because we never really worked together. But I think that if you can stand up and call someone hostages and then still have all these amazing relationships, his friendship with Kate is fascinating to me. Fascinating that I could spend so long working on my relationship with Kate and then merge happens and she just forgets that the hostages ever happened, or that she respects the hostages. I still don't quite understand their friendship, but it's a testament to his social game. And really, I think he has a great balance of a social and strategic game at this point in merge, that he can get into people's good books and somehow make them respect his bombastic way of playing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, last question. We talked about like the short to medium term plans with Kate and Morgan and the women. What was, with starting the jury now, obviously mayor of Jury Villa, what did you have any kind of long-term ideas of who you would have wanted to sit next to? Had you thought about where the Logan juncture ends, if it does, if you're sitting next to her? What were your grandest plans about how this finishes up for you in a positive way?
Mm-hmm. Logan and I never said that we wouldn't write each other's names down. We made a pact to not say that in any form. We always were understanding that at some point we're going to have to write each other's names down if we get that far. And we were happy to do so. We were happy to take each other out at some point, which I really appreciated about our friendship, that it wasn't this kind of fake you and me to the end, final two together. We knew at some point we would have to part because our games were too similar. And to be honest, I wanted her on the jury so that she could advocate for me. I wanted her on the jury pretty soon so that she could advocate for me. My long-term plans, I really wanted to move forward with Kate and Morgan. I thought both of them are physical threats. I also thought they had the relationship where they too agreed that they would never write each other, that they would at some point write each other's names down. So if I could be that third, that they could eventually go after each other, pulling me side to side, that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to move forward with them. I thought they were in a great cushy position with where the Brawns were. All the Brains wanted to work with them. They're both physical threats to each other. They both, what they value in the game is the same. So I thought they could always be, opposing head to head, which I kind of wanted. I thought in the end, I would love to sit next to either Kate or Morgan because they would win that final challenge no matter what it was and hopefully not choose the other. I could convince them out of choosing the other because you want that other person on the jury to advocate for you and that's a sure vote, right? Having either Kate or Morgan on the jury would definitely vote for the other. So I thought I had a pretty solid plan in taking Kate and Morgan to the end.
And they as jury threats in their mind, they as what they value on the jury is probably physical threat. So in their mind, they're like, let me take out the other physical threat, take you through, and then you hopefully outtalk them.
Yeah. I wanted to keep people around who would constantly be a threat to the other. So Zara and Logan, for example, are both also physical threats. They both have the same skill set. They both play the game in a similar way. So I wanted to keep around these people that would always have a bigger target than me, that could, win that final challenge, and I could convince them to take me over that other person.
Amazing. Well, fascinating. We got so many insights in the last 3 minutes that we were talking about. To me, it's been 3 minutes. I think it's been probably a lot longer. I don't know how much time I've taken. Thank you to Ten for giving us as much time as it's been. Laura, it was great to watch you. I hope we get to see you again. And thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and giving us so many insights.
Thank you so much. It's a dream come true to chat to you, and I'd love to chat to you anytime.
Thanks so much, Laura. Okay, bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.